So we're seeing about a 12 to 15% year-on-year increase in organic and AI visibility having an influence on our revenue generation. And if you sort of take a step back at a real high level, we're typically generating about 100 demos a month for our sales team that are coming in inbound. And with that increase in the work that we've done in SEO, we're seeing about 40 to 45% of our organic visibility affecting and attributing towards those 100 demos. So if you look at that, it's about 40 to 45 demos every month that are being generated and influenced by our organic visibility and market.
Well, first of all, thank you very, very much, Rachel, for joining me today. And I'll actually begin with kind of handing over the mic to you. And for anyone watching this, I would love to hear a bit more about yourself. So a short introduction, but also hearing a bit more about Willo as a product.
Yeah, of course. So hello, I'm Rachel. I am CMO at Willo. Willo is an intelligent candidate screening platform. And essentially what we do is we screen and assess candidates to give employers better shortlists of candidates that are backed with data that they can then feel confident progressing through to further stages in their interviewing process.
That's amazing. Short and sweet. Nice pitch. Yeah, so for context and for anyone viewing, we've been working with Willo as an SEO and GEO partner since, well, December 2024, beginning of 2025. So if we do zoom out a little bit, Rachel, how would you describe, your SEO and AI search presence before we started working together?
Yeah, okay. So I guess I joined the team at Willo back in 2023, and I had the most incredible opportunity of building the marketing function. We had a lot of the basics and foundations in place, but there was a lot of work to be done. And what I set out to build essentially was a fractional team of incredible agencies, fractionals, contractors, specialists in areas and channels that I knew were going to be value for us from a growth perspective and for growing our sort of brand and credibility in our target markets. So when it comes to search, for us, our website is like our shop window. So we function on most of our sort of revenue is actually, and up till today is actually majority inbound. So we had to have a strong converting inbound function from the moment that we had users finding us and coming onto the website. So we had a very sort of ad hoc, I would say, sort of strategy in place when it comes to SEO. And that was mainly more about generating content on the site that was relevant to our customer at the time. And it was sort of more focused around how can we grow visibility, how can we grow more sort of like top of funnel, rather than sort of tying it to the inbound engine that we had actually built really quite successfully since we sort of launched back in 2020. But sort of taking a step back and looking at what was actually coming through that inbound channel, SEO, AEO was just changing rapidly. And that is an area that I know at a high level, but I would never be able to sit down and say, yeah, I can be an SEO specialist. And you reached out. It was almost like serendipity. You had sent me a loom in LinkedIn and chatted me through what essentially we could potentially achieve with a more sort of strategic, streamlined approach. You kept it as well really high level. It wasn't going into the technicalities of SEO, and immediately I just thought this is perfect timing. We need to chat to Eddie and his team. Which we did. And I'm really glad that we did, because it really helped me, again, just sort of build the picture of what we had in place back at the end of 2024, reflect on that as well, and understand that there was gaps, but two, there was also so much opportunity for us ahead to actually get a team in and transform that channel and take it really, really seriously. And yeah, that's what we did. So we started working with you guys towards the end of 2024, start of 2025. The sort of massive win for me was when you look at the sort of outsourced setup, there's loads of questions of like, how How do you get those individuals bought in? How do they feel like part of the business? And I felt that immediately after speaking with you and Joseph. And it was shown immediately when you onboarded. We did the whole brand training, we did all the sort of customer ICP training with you. But then you guys took it that step further and started using our tools and listening to, sales conversations, meeting the sales team, understanding our customer, which really helped build the strategy that you set out with last year.
So if we maybe dig deeper into, not necessarily the challenges, but you did mention, this kind of untapped potential when it came to search. Like you had early proof of concept, you knew it was working, but you kind of felt in a sense that, with that proof of concept, there's so much more to be done here. And in that sense, like what was it that you knew could be done and could be improved? Essentially, what was lacking with the existing strategy, and what were you looking to achieve with our engagement?
Yeah, so I guess for me, the piece that was lacking was actually clarity on where we were going.
Mm.
What are we actually trying to achieve with our organic visibility? What is this success metric? What can I report back to, the senior leadership team, the wider team at Willo, to say this is a channel that, we're investing in and we're seeing growth in XYZ. What's really interesting about search as a channel, for us anyway, is it's not just influencing what we're generating from a revenue perspective, but it's also influencing our brand visibility and our brand growth in market. And you've obviously been part of this, Eddie, sort of setting up that success metric from a brand point of view, which can be really hard to measure, is that share of voice. Which is a new metric that we introduced this year and we've got in place, which is really cool to see. But I would say, yeah, for me, it was kind of a lack of where are we going? What is the objective here? What's the success metric for this channel that we can say, organic is paving the way for whatever that is for the business. And yeah, we set that out pretty early on with you and the team. And a massive part of that was flipping the strategy to bottom of funnel. And that's obviously based back on tying it to revenue, tying it onto that inbound engine that was working, but could be optimized to, a point that it's at today. And that bottom of funnel strategy as well can get marketers, it can get senior leadership team a bit like, oh, but are we going to not lose all that visibility at the top? Are we not wanting to go for as many eyeballs as possible? And my response to that is, yeah, you can go for as many eyeballs as you want, but I mean, from our perspective, we could be getting millions of eyeballs, which I know we do, but they could all be candidates. And candidates is not the end customer for us. It's not who we should be or want to be targeting and optimizing and converting on the website. And you've got to get that right. And that's why the sort of bottom of funnel approach for us, based on what we were seeing coming in inbound, was super important and helped us sort of build this really consistently performing revenue stream from organic search.
So when we did start, talking together, at the end of 24, beginning of 25, what was like the biggest thing that made you like trust us as a partner, and what made you, ultimately choose us to help you build this SEO and AI search strategy?
It's a really good question. So a couple of things. First thing for me was when I met you and got to speak to you about SEO, you were immediately able to explain it to me in a way that I was able to understand the value. You didn't go into the technicalities or try and pull the wool over my eyes with things that I potentially wouldn't understand, like an SEO specialist. And that immediately just evokes trust and like credibility in you and Joseph. The second piece for me is, so at Willo, we're really lucky with the team that we have. We are all bought into the journey that we're on, to the changes that we're making in the hiring space and what we're doing for candidates and what we're doing for employers. And I immediately got that energy from you as well. That's part of the hiring process, whether you're a full-time employee or a fractional employee. There has to be that sort of passion and energy there for what we're doing. you've got to enjoy it. You've got to, feel that you're part of that change in that journey. And again, like I got that immediately after sort of sharing a bit more on the product and what we're sort of setting out to achieve.
And we appreciate that a lot. And Rachel, now that we've been working together for quite some time, if we look at what we set out to do and ultimately what we were able to accomplish, or looking at the results side of things, if you were to describe the results in terms of impact, so relevant visibility, but also that revenue side of things, meaning inbound generation, ultimately sales conversations, and that's it, those sales conversations turning into new revenue and new customers.
Yeah, sure. So we're seeing about a 12 to 15% year-on-year increase in organic and AI visibility having an influence on our revenue generation. And if you sort of take a step back at a real high level, we're typically generating about 100 demos a month for our sales team that are coming in inbound. And with that increase in the work that we've done in SEO, we're seeing about 40 to 45% of our organic visibility affecting and attributing towards those 100 demos. So if you look at that, it's about 40 to 45 demos every month that are being generated and influenced by our organic visibility in market.
If we move on to just a quick question around like time to value. So when we did start working together, like with the strategy we had set out to kind of achieve, and the goals we were looking to achieve, how quickly did you start seeing an impact, both from kind of the early indicators in terms of visibility, and ultimately maybe the kind of the lagging indicators in terms of conversions and like demo volume, but also demo quality?
Yeah, that's a good question. So reflecting back to last year, 2025, when we sort of kicked off the strategy and direction for organic, first 3 months, what we really started to see was that increase in visibility. So taking that bottom of funnel approach with some of our content and some of our existing content as well. So what we had the beauty of was actually going back and optimizing some of that existing content and starting to see that perform and rank was really cool to see, and it immediately sort of pointed out the opportunity that we had at our fingertips. So that was seen, pretty early on in the sort of first 3 months. Then going into the following 3 months, it was organic and paid complementing each other and working together. And that was really cool to see. So our paid media specialist and your team actually, taking time out, meeting, speaking together, understanding the strategy that was going to work and complement the channels. And we saw that pretty quickly as well. And we've seen it across particularly the first half of this year, because we've invested more resource and time into a sort of attribution project and understanding that it is multi-channel, it's multi-touch, and you're seeing that still today with all of our sort of channels complementing each other, but organic and paid really driving those inbound conversions together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, you did touch upon, what made you feel like comfortable starting to work with us as an SEO partner, like during those early conversations. But now that you have, a little over a year of experience of working with us here at Exceed, if you could just mention a couple of things, maybe besides, the results aspect, what do you feel has been like the most valuable aspects of our engagement and how we approach, this partnership?
Learning about the channel. So one, I don't have the expertise or the skill set to do so. And two, I don't have the capacity to either. So actually meeting with you once a month and understanding what's going on and where SEO, AEO, GEO is taking us. And that learning aspect is super valuable. And I guess something you can't really put money on or ROI on, really. It's just learning from specialists and trusting and letting you get on with it. So I would say that that's been incredible for me. I'm not sure if you remember, Eddie, when we first met at the end of 2024, but I'm sure I said to you, we're thinking about letting ChatGPT like write our content, and we're gonna test that and see how that goes. And sort of in reflection of that, I just think there is no sort of value that I can put on having you and the team owning the channel, teaching not just me, but the wider marketing team, the wider business about organic visibility, why it's important, where we're going with it, and the changes. I mean, when we met, I think it was November last year, just even hearing the changes in that channel, and the fact that that's what you and your team do. You're keeping up with that every single day. And that's the value piece there that I definitely couldn't bring to Willo or the team or anyone else could. You've got to give that to someone that's specialized, that has the time, that knows, exactly where we should be prioritizing. So yeah, I hope that is a good answer.
Rachel, before we wrap up, so as you know, like obviously SEO and AI search has had a boom in a sense in the last couple of, well, let's say, months, even years now, due to the rollout of, large language models becoming, a product discovery channel, etc. And I still think a lot of, CMOs like yourselves or perhaps founders of software companies are still a bit on the fence when it comes to investing in SEO and AI search. Perhaps they're feeling that it's a channel that takes a very long time to start seeing results. They don't have that patience and instead focus heavily on just the paid channels. But now you know that you've had this pretty like wide perspective of running multiple channels with fractional talent. Like what would your advice be to B2B SaaS CMOs working at scale ups like Willo was when we started working together?
Okay, big question again. So my advice would honestly be, you're always going to want visibility, and you need to maintain that visibility. Give it to somebody that knows the channel, knows what they're doing, can dedicate their time, not just educate you, but your wider team. So your paid team, your PR team, so that it complements everything that you're doing in the marketing mix. Most, if not all, B2B SaaS providers will have a website that acts as a shop window. So you want to have that optimized to the best that you can. You want to be visible for, and I don't want to say for everything, because that's not what I mean, but you want to be visible for the areas and the problem that you're solving, and you want to do that well right across your site. So it's not just down to visibility. There's also the piece here around sort of CRO and speaking back to your ICP. To get it right, you absolutely have to know your customer. So before you even look at investing in, well, any sort of marketing function and channel, that goes for paid, it goes for everything, is you seriously need to know your ICP. You need to know who you're speaking to, who are you targeting, and why. You need to be speaking their language from the moment that you sort of set out any sort of marketing strategy or go-to-market strategy. The second piece is you seriously need to know your brand. What are your values? What do you stand for? What are you selling and why? And thirdly, it's obviously your products and your product positioning, offering, placement within market. Get those three things right. And one of the first channels that I would be pushing for investing in is your organic channel, your organic visibility across, search, AI, everything, because that is as well the channel right now that is consistently changing and will, continue to change. That would be my sort of summary on that one. Just going back to the success metrics, the other
Yeah.
piece is sort of more long term, looking at like as your business grows, as your customer base grows, like a really important metric is your LTV, your lifetime value of your customer. And what I would say is, just going back to your point around organic being this long-term sort of play, it absolutely is 100%. You're investing in that channel to, continue to grow, and it's not going to give you the results as the same as like a paid channel might immediately. However, you look at the sort of long-term metrics and your ROI and your LTV, you can grow organic to a point that potentially you might not be able to with other channels that you are investing super heavily in as well. So that's the other sort of long-term play for businesses, startups, scale-ups that are growing, is just being mindful as well of your sort of your success metrics at a higher level, and how that's going to affect, your cost per lead, your LTV, because organic is that piece that's the long-term play. But if you get it right, it's going to consistently perform for you.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal perspective actually. And I guess what you're like referring to in a sense is like that, compounding aspect of that search visibility, right? Like compared to, I guess, obviously paid media, it's like a channel that obviously like works perfectly for Willo, but if we would cut that budget and stop spending, it's kind of gone in a sense, right? While probably the first type of articles we created for Willo are still driving
This is driving
demos.
traffic and demos today. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
great perspective. But yeah, thank you very much for doing this, Rachel. This is so valuable. And since we started this engagement, I just want to kind of highlight why people should listen to you, because you've also done an amazing journey yourself. When we started working together, you were the marketing manager at Willo. You've then, gone to become the VP of marketing, and today you're the chief marketing officer. And that, journey and being part of that journey is something I'm very grateful for, and it's amazing to see. And I think you set a great example of how how a marketing leader should act and should think about marketing as a function. And to your point about the fractional team you've built, it's quite impressive to see how you manage it all and keep that collaboration tight across the team. So yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks a lot for this conversation, and I look forward to what we'll continue building. So thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Eddie.